All right, so let's go to the second half of this. Now we're going to talk about power of a product. Okay, so our focus is going to be power of a product. Remember, power is just referring to the exponent. Product, remember means to multiply. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by a power of a product. We're going to have 2x to the second power. We're going to have our parentheses, and we're going to raise it to the third power. You immediately notice the difference between the power of a product and a power of a power. A power of a power looked more like this without that 2 in front of the x. Now a power of a product will have a number in front of that variable. So that's where you get the product from, because this is being multiplied right there. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to think about what this really means. Okay? 2 times x squared. So if I really think about it, this really means 2 times x to the second power raised to the third power. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take this 3, and we know we have to raise the powers to whatever power it is that's in here. Well, what is this power of 2? It's not a 0, remember. It's a 1. So this is really 2 to the first power. So I'm going to sit there and take this 2 to the first power and this x to the second power, and I'm going to raise it to the third power. So I'm going to rewrite that. So I'm going to take 2 to the first power, and I'm going to raise it to the third power. I'm going to take x to the second power, and I'm going to also raise that to the third power. Notice how I've raised both the 2 and the x squared to the third power. Now if I think back, my quick way of doing this when I have a power raised to a power is to multiply. So I keep my base of 2, and I just do 1 times 3. I take x to the second power, and I'm going to multiply that by 3 also, because that's what power it's being raised to. Well, what does 1 times 3 give you? 3. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2 to the third. X, 2 times 3 is 6. So really what I have is 2 to the third times x to the sixth. I could evaluate that even further if I really wanted to by doing 2 to the third, because we know 2 to the third is really 2 times 2 times 2. And what does 2 to the third, or 2 times 2 times 2 get you? You're right, it gives you 8. So I could simplify that further and just write 8 times x to the sixth. Okay? Let me show you another one. I have 4p to the third. We're going to raise that to the second power. Again, notice my power of a product. I have a power. I'm doing a product of 4. All right, and I'm raising both of those to the power of 2. So again, I separate that. I write 4 as a power of 1 because there's nothing with it right now, so I put it as a power of 1. All right, times p to the third power. We're going to raise both of those powers to 2. So how I do that is I sit there and take the 4 to the first power. I separate that from p to the third. I give that its own parenthesis. I give p to the third its own parenthesis. And then I'm going to raise each of these to the second power because that's what it tells me to do outside of it. So I raise them both to the second power. So I have 4 to the first power raised to the second power. Again, the quick way is just to simply multiply. So I take this power and I'm raising it to another power. So I do 1 times 2, which gives me 2. So I have 4 to the second power times, well, what is p? 3 times 2 would give me 6. So I have 4 to the second times p to the sixth. What does 4 to the second equal? 4 to the second power? It is equal to 4 times 4, which is equal to 16. So again, if it asks me to evaluate, I can evaluate it down to that. All right. Couple more. Let's look at a couple more. We have 2m to the second, n to the third, and we're going to raise that all to the third power. Immediately you notice something different. We now move from having 1 variable inside the parentheses to now we have 2 variables inside the parentheses. So nothing changes. we're going to go ahead and identify the bases. The bases would be 2, m, and n. So I'm going to write 2 to the power. What power of 2 is this? There's nothing up here, so I'm going to write a 1. I'm going to multiply by that by m. What's the power with m? 2. What's the power with n? 3. I'm going to put those in the parenthesis. I'm going to raise them to the third power. Okay. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to raise all of this to the third power. So I'm going to separate them because there's multiplication there, so I can do this. I'm going to take 2 to the first. I'm going to put that in its own parentheses. I'm going to raise it